Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the DoDeals Show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
Okay, well, hello everybody. Hello Facebook Live. Welcome to another interview. I'm your host, Tim Mai. Today I have Ryan Nickel on the line with us. Ryan lives in the Northern California in the city called Yuba City.
That's right, yeah.
Yes, and Ryan is, somewhat new. He's been doing this for 18 months. However, he's been accomplishing amazing things in the last 18 months. Went from 0 deals to 39 deals. He is a young father of 4 and 1 on the way. So you can imagine, right? How to get started in this new business and having these young kids and still be able to do the amount of deals that Ryan did. So, Ryan, can you share with everyone, what would you say is the most important tip on how to go from just brand new newbie, haven't done any deals yet, into doing 39 deals in 18 months?
Networking, just getting out there and letting people know what you do, and it's basically just pressing the flesh.
And so give us a tip on networking, like how, because it can get scary, especially in the beginning when you haven't done any deals yet. We're like, well, what do you do? Well, I'm new. So,
that's so true, because I go to a few meetups and you meet these new guys and they're like, hi. You got to add value, and that's really what it is. It comes down to. And what I mean by networking, it's not necessarily just out there at the meetup clubs and things like that. When I look at the deals that I've done this last year, I was actually surprised that most of them had come from referrals, and they were referrals not from me meeting people at the meetups, because they're all looking for the same thing. They all want a deal themselves. It actually was for me picking up the phone and networking with other wholesalers in my market. And so what I would do is I'd go on Craigslist, or I'd see the signs around town, and I actually would call them. And the ones that would call me back, I would introduce myself and say, hey, you know what? I don't have a house for sale, but I am looking to buy a house. Do you have any inventory? And at that point, we would have a relationship. But my strategy typically is doing subject to. So I take over properties that are highly leveraged or over leveraged, and usually these wholesalers don't know what to do with those properties. And so I ask them, hey, what can you do with those properties? If you can't, I'd be interested in 1, taking them, and 2, paying you a referral fee for them. And that's how I've networked to as many deals as I have.
Too new to even know what a subject to is? Google it. Subject to TO. All right, Facebook, we're going to continue with the rest of our interview now. So make sure you keep an eye out for when we post this interview live, and watch it and leave feedback, leave comments. Thank you so much. See you on the next. See you next time. Okay. All right, Ryan. So share with us, a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in this business? And then we'll go from there.
Okay, so I got started like every other great real estate investor out there. I got fired from my job. That's right, that's what I'm saying. So that's a recipe for success. So if you haven't been fired yet, I'm sorry, there's no luck for you guys. No, that's definitely not the case. But I was fired, and I had met a mentor. He was I had met him in kind of a year before, and he mentioned to me, he's like, look, if you ever are looking to get into real estate, I'd love to help you out here, and in return, you can help me out with some online marketing type of stuff. And so he flew me out actually to his office, which is in Georgia, and ran through this training. I came back to California. I was living in South Lake Tahoe at the time, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I had come from a mortgage banking background. And I was all about traditional, like, no, I got to get a loan, no, I got to use my credit, no, I got to put down payments down, and we clearly weren't in that kind of a situation to be doing any of that stuff. And but this gentleman's his teaching was all creative stuff. He's like, you got to be more creative, Ryan. You got to get outside of this traditional way of thinking. And I was like, stuck in that. And I tried for, that was in August of 2014, and I tried to do that for, oh gosh, August, September. I did that for a good 3.5 months, and I never got a deal. So finally he said, look, if you're willing to move out to Georgia, I'll put you up, and I'll show you how this goes. And so actually I kissed my wife goodbye, my 3 kids at the time, and I packed up my little car and I drove cross country, and yeah, I made it there, and I was sleeping in the back of his office on the floor. He had put a little like shower in there, so I had some kind of I could live there, but it was definitely not the most ideal of circumstances. But I lived in his back office for I got there right before Thanksgiving, and it was on the 19th of December when I did my first deal. So that's how I got started. This gentleman, the graciousness and the kindness of his heart really opened up his whole entire business to me and let me come out there. And I was working in exchange, of course, for that opportunity, but that gave me the motivation, the confidence, and some of the skill sets that I needed to get started. And like I said, within about 3 weeks of being there, I got my first deal. It was about $20,000.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story, and at the same time, that's also a really great way to learn from someone, right? You're learning live, sweat equity.
Yeah, I was hustling. I mean, and it really was the impetus that I needed, because I didn't have the confidence in myself. I didn't know what I was doing. And he really kind of held my hands, did the negotiations, coached me through a lot of the stuff. And I really am indebted to him and his family for opening that door for me. For about a year, and then I went on my own.
Oh, okay. So during that year, all the deals that you did, was it for his company, or you were also doing your own deals as well?
That's a really good question. We wholesaled some stuff together, and then he helped me work my very first deal. We joint ventured on that one. Trying to think. During my time frame with him, the only other deal that I did that was not part of his, like under his umbrella, was my own personal property. We found a house that my family could move into.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, well that's good. I'm glad to hear that you did just drive and was away for a year. So your whole family, how long did it take before your wife brought the kids and moved in?
Yeah, we moved out there the weekend of Valentine's Day, so just 2 months after that. It wasn't too far.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so so a year later, what made you decide to go on your own? Like, what was it? You felt like, okay, it's time. I'm ready. What is it?
It's a bittersweet situation. So I always want to go. Part of my weaknesses is that I always want to go fast. I want to go super fast. And he was telling me, like, look, this is the South. You need to slow down. You just need to take it easy, kind of thing. And I'm just like, no, I gotta go. I got family, I got bills, I got all this stuff to do. And in that process, you don't know what you don't know. So I made some mistakes, and in making those mistakes, we didn't part ways. He kind of alienated himself from me because he didn't want to be dragged down into the direction that I was going. And at that point, I realized, I'm like, well, I'm only out here for the relationship, and the relationship seems to kind of have been, dissolved a little bit. And at that point, my wife was getting homesick and from California. My father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer, and our young kids, at that time they were like 5, 3, and 1, and then a newborn. And so we made the decision to actually move back to California, and that's when we decided to break off and just go on our own, and that's when we did that.
Gotcha. Okay, so now you're back in California. It's most people think that's a very difficult market to do. So how are you how are you managing that? Are you just doing deals in California, also where was the other place that you went to again?
So it was Savannah, Georgia. So we own property in Savannah, Georgia, then also in South Carolina, because it's just right across the river there in Georgia.
Okay, gotcha. So now, are you doing deals in both cities, or just in California where you are?
I've done one extra deal in South Carolina, but that was just because I had for lack of a better term, I had a bird dogger out there that wanted to learn the business, and I said, here, this is what you do. So he went and found a property, and we partnered on that one. But that's the only other one. Most of my deals right now are in my backyard here in California.
Gotcha. Okay. So So you started out networking, letting wholesalers know, that that you can do deals that has little or no equity or even upside down, and that's how you found some of your deals. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that wasn't my initial strategy though. When I look back, I realized that I got more deals because of that. That's where the bulk of my deals came from this year, but that wasn't or how I got started in California. Yeah, Craigslist of all places. I hit Craigslist really hard. I went for the for sale by owners and also the for rent by owners, and I was just looking for the guys that were distressed, and I found a few that just were fed up. I mean, this one guy in particular. It's the joke about California is that California is full of fruits and nuts, and this guy, he's a bit of a nut. He's a bit of an extremist. When I first found him, he goes, "Hey man, we got to talk outside because the government's listening to our conversation right now." And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So we go outside, and he's like under a tree, and like he's kind of whispering. He's like, I don't want them to know that I have more property. But I actually ended up buying two of his properties from him, and he was just kind of paranoid, just wanted to get rid of, offload everything so the government couldn't, take it from him and stuff. Because he was pretty confident that they're going to just, drive up to his house with their guns and just force him out and take the house from him. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I'm glad to hear that you were able to find these sellers, on the for sale by owners, because I know a lot of for sale by owners, they're just too cheap to even pay a commission, right? They want to keep all the money to themselves, and so.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of them are. I mean, you have to figure out what their motivation is. Why are they selling? Because a lot of them are just like, hey, they want, like you said, they're cheap. They want to keep the money. A lot of times, though, especially when you look at, you got to know your market too. If the house is listed for over market, you clearly know that it's over market. That's someone saying, look, I can't accept anything less because I'm over leveraged. And these two houses that I did pick up, they were over leveraged properties.
Okay, right. So, okay, so you Craigslist. So you call for sale by owners, call for rent. What do you say to them?
It's varied but basically it's like, so back then, I can take you through my evolution. So back then it was straight up like, hey, you know what? I see you have a house for sale. What are you asking for? And I get the price, of course. And then I go, oh, you know what? I'm looking for a cash deal. Would you accept this? And I give them a super discounted, price. And then they tell me no, I can't. Then we get into the conversation of like, well, how much do you owe? And then when I realize it's done over, they're over leverage, I said, well, would you accept payments if there's a little bit of equity? If there's not, then I'll say, you know what? I'll just take that burden off your shoulders from you. I'll just, take it over. I'll buy it for what it's worth. And that was a conversation that I would have with them. As you can imagine, a lot of those conversations over the phone aren't receptive, just because it's kind of, they don't know who I am. And so now my approach has been, if the house is for sale, I'm going to go look at it no matter what. And I'm in a small area where it's only a 10, 15-minute drive. And so I'm going to go and build rapport with that person and try to find out what their motivation is while going through the house.
That's smart. That's smart. So how do you make money with these deals that that have no equity?
That's another good question. I get that asked a lot too. So I'll walk you through a case in point one. So one that we just purchased, fair market value for a home, this is in Sacramento, was $182,000, and we picked it up for $177,000. That's what they owed on it. But I sold it for $195,000. And for individuals that don't have credit, they don't have the ability to get a loan, but they do have a down payment. To them, the price is kind of irrelevant. They only care so much about the price as they do about the monthly payment. If I can make the monthly payment be where they can afford it, then it works fine. So at that point, like for example, this house $195,000, I increased the purchase price, and then they came in with just less than $20,000, like $17,000 down.
I see. Okay, that's
so we make our money on the down payment. We also make our money on the monthly cash flow. So our payment is usually anywhere between 150 to 250 below what we're charging as far as the monthly payment goes.
Gotcha. And then so when you sell it, are you selling on a lease option, or are you selling it on a wraparound mortgage, or?
That particular one was a wraparound mortgage. All my other ones, though, they're either lease options if they don't have that kind of down payment, like maybe they only have like $5,000 or $7,000, we'll do a lease option. All the other ones are contract for deeds, where they're just they don't get the deed until after the fact.
So how did you decide? So other than the down payment, so like with the contract for deed, how do you decide which strategy to use?
It depends on how much money they have. So yeah, so my rule of thumb kind of is if they have 3 to 5% down, I'll do a lease option. If they have 10 to 20% down, I'll do a contract for deed. We'll owner finance it to them. And if they don't have, just to continue that thought, if the lease option, because I want to keep the properties long term because they're investments for me, I want to get the monthly cash flow. So I'll always try to roll a lease option over time into a true owner finance and either have them build up their down payment over time, or when tax returns come in, collect more money from them so that we're building towards that seller finance option.
Right. Awesome. Okay. And so where do you find these buyers? Or how do you find them?
Bandit signs and Craigslist. Yeah, signs in the yard and Craigslist, which is really interesting because in my more rural areas, Craigslist is where most of my buyers have come from. And then, of course, I keep a list of my previous ones that raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested, but they didn't pull the trigger for one reason or another, or they needed to build up a down payment over time. In my more urban areas, like this one in Sacramento, I got more buyers just from my Bandit signs on street corners.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then
It surprised me.
That's good. And then the calls go directly to you when you do your marketing?
Yeah, so I've tested it both ways. I've had them go to kind of a call capture system where it gets their phone number and then leave a message and stuff like that. And then I have them call me directly. I sell my houses faster when they call me directly. My average is about 10 days.
Gotcha. Okay. Why is that, you think?
I think because on my call capture, not that many people were leaving messages. And the ones that were leaving messages were just interested in just getting the price. And so if I can just have that conversation with them and let them know that I'm a real person over the phone initially, we're not doing that many deals. We're doing one a month. And so it doesn't, and if we're selling in 10 days, it doesn't take that much of my time. I don't know. I'm just able to build rapport with them over the phone really quickly.
Right. Okay. That's good. So, share with us some of your challenges that you have gone through, as a new investor coming in, especially even like some challenges, off of your first deal when you were working with your mentor and stuff like that. So put yourself back to the time when you didn't know all these real estate stuff. It was all mumbo jumbo, all super scary, right? What were some of those challenges and how did you overcome them?
So the first challenge was not knowing anything about creative real estate. And so the real challenge wasn't so much because I had a mentor in my back pocket. I just knew that I could call him up or we'd go on the properties together. So that gave me a lot of confidence. The real challenge was in trusting myself and believing in myself. And so when I got left alone to kind of do my own deals, that was kind of where it still was in my mind. It was still theory because technically I hadn't really done a deal myself from start to finish. I didn't know all of the pieces that was that go into it, and it was really scary. And so I remember my very, very first deal. This is in Georgia. My very first deal on my own, and just sitting there. And it's so funny because I had this thought, this belief that I needed to become friends with the person that I was sitting across the table from. And he was an old guy. He's from the South, and he just, he had his Southern accent. And I remember this too because I wrote a book. I wrote this book, and I gave him this book. I'm like, look, I wrote this book, and I wanted to kind of puff myself up, like, hey, I'm this investor, and I'm like, don't you really know I've only done like one deal on my own kind of thing? I've been like, so hang on, let me show you this. So yeah, I have this book, and I'm trying to prop myself up as this huge investor that has written this bestseller on Amazon and all this stuff. And finally, this guy leans across the table and goes, Ryan, I don't care what you've done and what you haven't done. I just want my damn house sold. And I'm like, all right, that's really that was kind of what it took. It's I'm trying to do all this posturing, trying to compensate for what I don't know and my insecurities. And the guy's just like, look, just help me sell my house and everything's fine. And that was kind of the biggest revelation for me starting it off was Ryan, you're actually helping these people. that's the best possible thing you can do. And you know 50,000 times more than the average person on the street as it is, just having gone through my little mentorship. And so that was what really gave me the confidence to go and just to hit it kind of hard.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. So what I guess what would you suggest for someone starting out to go from zero to their first deal and maybe even to their first 3-5 deals?
Okay, two things. So the first one is when I was there in South Carolina, I still had to find the deals. I had to do it myself. And so I hit Craigslist every single day. I blocked out an hour a day, and I would make anywhere between 10 and 15 phone conversations. Not phone calls. I was probably dialing anywhere between 40 and 50 phone numbers. But my goal was to have 10 to 15 conversations. And I had blocked out an hour, and that hour usually ended up being like almost 3 hours, because you can imagine conversations tend to run long. So that was the first thing that I would suggest anyone, is to, one, find the deals, and then two, attach yourself to someone who already knows what they're doing, someone who can walk you through the step. Because and this is the conversation I had with another investor today. It's the guys, this is how the world works. You either have the time or you have the means, but you don't have both. The guys that have the time don't have the means, and the guys that have the means usually don't have the time. And so if you can pair one of those two together, you got a winning combination. For example, with my mentor, I had all the time in the world. And so I could go out there and I could hustle and I could find the deals. He had the means to put them together. And when that role reversed, for example, with my bird dogger in South Carolina, he had the time and I had the means. And so I was able to partner with him and to do the deal. So that's what I would suggest anyone getting started, because clearly if they're getting started, they don't have the means. And the means could be, not necessarily financial means, but it could also be the wherewithal and the understanding of how a deal is structured and put together. But if you find a deal, there are going to be plenty of individuals who are going to want to partner with you. So that's what I would suggest to people.
Awesome. Great tip. And yeah, and so why would, why, let me find what's the best way to ask this question, but why not do it the normal way that other investors do it? Why pick this niche, this creative financing? I know your mentor did it, and that's one of the reasons why you're doing it, right? You learned it from him. But why did he choose to do this versus not just find, properties with a lot of equity and buy it cheap?
Oh, and buy them outright, you mean?
Yeah. What's the benefit in doing these creative deals versus just buying properties at a discount?
Leverage, I think, would be the number one answer there. Is, if I had $100,000 and I could go and buy 3 properties at, let's say, $33,000 a piece, or I could find someone that has maybe 10,000 equity and I can go buy 10 properties and pay them all off. That's what I would do, is leverage them that way.
Gotcha. Okay, and are these properties easy to find?
That's the funniest thing. And I say it's funny because I always have individuals, because I have a meetup and they're like, hey, where can I find subject to deals? And I'm like, you don't find them, you create them. And case in point is, we go and we find these houses, and this is why I go on the houses, going and looking at these homes, because it's not necessarily that they're thinking that, oh, I'm going to give Ryan my house or I'm going to accept terms for payments. Is I'm trying to figure out, one, how much equity they actually have, and two, what's their motivation? Because if I know what those two things are, I'm able to better craft a deal and to create the subject to environment, or to create a deal where they're willing to accept terms. And so you definitely have to create that opportunity with them.
Gotcha. Sounds good. And so besides Craigslist, do you also use bandit signs to find these homes as well?
I have bandit signs out in my local community. I have yet to buy a home based on a bandit sign. And that's just my market here. And what's happened is every time I go on a bandit sign phone call, I'm outbid.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know when I was doing a lot of subject twos type deals, I usually go after the foreclosure market. So things like stop foreclosure. So rather than the normal we buy houses signs, right? Those are typically the more equity people.
Yeah, so we have I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, we do have a distinction in the signs that we have. So we buy houses for cash fast. Then we also have the stop foreclosures. I've never got. We put out 100 signs, and still in my community we have about 60 signs that are still up. I've never got a sign, and in my community, just to give you a kind of a geographic. We're 3 miles by 8 miles. It's a very small little area. Yeah, super small. We got like 60,000 population. So I've never once received a stop foreclosure phone call. They've always been outside the local churches or something like that. Like, oh hey, can you buy my house? And
Right.
that's what.
That's awesome. I mean, geez, that's that's like a neighborhood here in Houston.
Right, I know.
All right. So what else? What is there any other marketing that you do to find these deals?
Yeah, there is actually. I drive for dollars because my area is so small, and I'm not only in this area. I'll branch out to the more rural areas or other towns, but I drive for dollars, and I'm looking for homes that are either just kind of run down or completely boarded up and abandoned.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you try to buy them and flip those, or what? Buy fix.
Yeah, those I will actually wholesale.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the really bad ones. Some of them they're so bad that they're complete teardowns and no one wants them.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, Ryan, it's been phenomenal interview. I've learned a lot from this interview already for sure. So if the folks, watching this, listening to this, want to reach out to you, connect with you, what do you want to send them?
They can either go to my website. It's troublesellingyourhouse.com, or they can just email me at ryan@troublesellingyourhouse.com. Either way is fine.
Troublesellingyourhouse.com.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. You know what? I'm going to circle around something before we wrap up this interview about your book. That's a very great idea. I know you mentioned like it was that seller, he didn't really care about the book, but has that worked on any other seller that perhaps allows you to win the deal over compared to other investors?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. It's really insightful of you too. Yeah, I was in Las Vegas at the time. I was at a marketing seminar, and I had a guy contact me, and he's a veteran. He's like, "Look, man, I'm sick and tired of this house in South Carolina. I don't want it. I've moved already. I'm in Idaho, and this house needs to be gone." He's like, I just I need someone I can trust that's going to buy from me. And at this point, the home at that point was worth I think he owed just over $202,000, and it was worth $150. He's like, "Look, man, I got $30,000 if you want to meet me halfway." And I'm like, "I'm not going to meet you halfway, but I'll take over the payments for you." And he's like, "Why would you do that?" kind of thing. And so I said, "Look, man, I know you don't know me from anybody, but let me send you a free copy of my book. And on the last chapter, it talks about why someone would be willing to take over these payments." And I sent it to him. He never read the book, but he said, "Look, man, if you got a book, I'll do business with you." And that was it. So true story.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
Oh,
and yeah, so that was the end of that story. So I got that house literally because of that book.
That's perfect. Great example. And is it a self-published book?
It is. Yeah, it's on Amazon. I had a guy that literally it was a bestseller for like 13 minutes. So yeah, he got up to bestseller status. So yeah, I've achieved that goal in my lifetime. So I'm feeling pretty prestigious.
That's awesome. I'm just curious, like how much does it cost to write a book and self-publish a book like that?
It costs us so much is time. So when I was in Georgia by myself, so every morning I wake up from 5 until 6. This is Monday through Friday. So 5 until 6, I would write, and it took me 6 weeks to write the book. And after that, I just use CreateSpace, which is a part of Amazon. So all together, like not counting my time, I hired someone to edit it and to format it, and then to come up with a cover all on Fiverr. I think I was less than $30 for all of that.
Wow, that's cheap.
Yeah, totally cheap. And so Fiverr was my best friend, and then I published it, of course, and then I think every time I purchase one, if I purchase it in bulk, which I need to get, because I hand them out like these are my business cards, and so when I buy them, they're like $1.95 a piece.
Cool. Can I see the whole cover?
Yeah.
Up. So no, go back a little bit. Zoom out.
Is that better?
Okay. Yeah. And then in the back. So you don't have any call to action on this thing?
No, I don't. This was a complete just like, well, I mean, I do in the book, like it says, here, give me a call, and it's in.
Right. You might want to consider having a call to action, like either front or back cover, so that way if a seller doesn't read the book, it's like, let me just call him.
That's so. I appreciate you bringing that up. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I never intended to move back to California, ever. And so I have my old logo right there, South Carolina Coastal Investments. Yeah. And in the back it says about the author. He lives he lives in Georgia, but only invests in these four counties in South Carolina. So it's very like regional specific. Right. So when that guy, from Georgia, Idaho, when he got the book and in the back, cover says, he invests in the area that he lived in. That's what, it was.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool. All right.
But I was very narrow-minded and focused when I wrote the book.
I like that idea. Is that what you would recommend for investors? Like, have a book in specific to your market area, and then use that as your business card?
If you plan on staying in that market, because now that I'm in California, I have to keep the South Carolina number because it's in my book. I would actually I would actually challenge them to think bigger. Especially with the way technology is and doing virtual deals and stuff like that, I think bigger, think national.
Gotcha. So maybe get a toll-free number or something, right?
Something like that, yeah. Or just like, I wouldn't say that you're limited to only buying in that specific market.
Gotcha. Well, cool, Ryan. Thank you so much, buddy, for this amazing interview. I enjoyed it a lot.
Pleasure, Tim. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you. And oh man, I forget all about asking about how you manage it with the family. But I'm sure like you must have a super wife. She probably has it all taken care of. So it's like, Ryan, you go do your thing out there with those deals. I have these kids covered, right? No. Sometimes she's like, are you going to drive for dollars today? I'm like, yeah, I am. She's like, great, you can take all the kids. So she has my schedule. What days I'm driving for dollars, and usually I end up taking the kids with me. We get like McDonald's shakes and stuff like that. Oh, that's perfect. Hey, that is an amazing thing to raise your kids up with, like taking them around, driving them around for dollars. Wow, that's a great use of babysitting time. It
really is. Well, I told you I had my daughter with me yesterday, and we drove by this house, and it said for rent. She goes, Dad, the house is for rent. Stop. We need to get the phone number.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to, you know what? I'm inspired. I'm going to do that with my kids. Like, kids, it's Saturday. We're doing driving for dollars today, this week.
There you go, man. Yeah, go get some donuts or something, drive around. I mean, the kids are there, like, sometimes because I'm, like, focused on something else. They'll see a house that I hadn't seen before. Like, Dad, this house is all boarded up. Did you get that house yet?
Dude, that is an amazing, like, training for them at such a young age. So great. So definitely that's a great tip. That's like one of the greatest tips. So everyone, if you have kids, if you have grandkids, if you have nieces, nephew, take them for driving for dollars. They're going to help you build your business, help you get deals, and you're teaching them at a very young age, about real estate investing. Imagine if we grew up in that kind of environment, right?
Oh man, gosh.
We'll be like Donald Trump,
Right. Or Tim Mai.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. Great having you on this interview. I really appreciate you. I'm sure the listeners, also appreciate you greatly as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening to this interview. We'll see you on the next interview. All right, everyone. Bye-bye.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.